You know, back in the day, seniors' parents had a clever way of hiding gold coins in coal bins without ever losing track of them. The coal bin, well, it was picked because it was just so ordinary, dirty, and honestly, hardly anyone ever questioned what was inside. During the Great Depression, and then again when wartime rationing hit, coal bins were just part of daily survival, plain and simple. Homes heated with coal needed those deliveries often, and just about every working-class family had a bin or a coal cellar. That kind of everyday presence made the coal bin pretty much invisible. No official, no tax collector, and not even a desperate neighbor figured anything valuable would be tucked away where your hands always came out black with soot. And, well, that's exactly why families went with them. Coal bins weren't picked at random, not at all. Folks chose them because they were already private spaces, usually locked up, tucked down in basements or out in sheds, and really only ever accessed by the folks living in the house. Unlike walls or floorboards, coal bins were expected to be disturbed regularly, which paradoxically made them safer. Anything hidden there did not raise suspicion when moved or accessed. Coins were never buried loosely in coal because that guaranteed loss. One of the biggest misconceptions is that families simply tossed gold coins into coal piles. That rarely happened, and when it did, the coins were often lost forever. Families who depended on that gold understood this risk clearly. Coal was shoveled, burned, spilled, and replaced constantly. Loose coins would end up in ash buckets, furnaces, or dumped outside with spent coal residue. Instead, coins were always contained. Most commonly, they were wrapped tightly in oilcloth, wax paper, or heavy fabric, and then sealed inside metal tins, small jars, or soldered containers. These containers were then deliberately placed in predictable zones within the bin, not randomly mixed. Predictability was the entire system. The placement followed repeatable physical rules, not memory alone. Families did not rely on memory, such as somewhere near the back. They used physical markers that could not shift. Coins were often placed beneath fixed wooden supports against stone foundation walls or inside recessed corners where coal naturally settled around but did not displace the container. In some homes, a shallow depression was carved into the floor of the bin itself, just deep enough to seat the container. Coal was then piled over it to a specific height. The key detail is that the container sat below the level where shoveling normally reached. Coal was typically taken from the top and front, meaning the bottom rear remained largely undisturbed for years. Families used layered concealment so even helpers could not discover it. Coal delivery men hired help, and even extended family members often accessed the bin. For that reason, concealment was layered. The container holding the gold was often placed inside another innocuous object, such as a broken stove part, an old coal scuttle, or a rusted metal box that appeared worthless. Some families stored the container inside a false bottom built into the coal bin wall or under a removable plank that matched the surrounding wood. Record-keeping was, subtle and deliberately boring. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of families did keep records, but not obvious ones. They avoided things like maps, diagrams, or written confessions. Instead, they used routine-based memory anchors. A common method was, associating the hiding place with a repetitive task, like the third shovel from the left wall or the spot directly below the coal chute hinge. In some households, two people knew different parts of the process. One knew the container, the other knew the placement. During wartime, especially in Europe and parts of North America, inspections for rationing compliance or fuel usage increased. Families adapted by placing containers in areas that would not be disturbed during inspections. Inspectors rarely dug into coal piles, and when they did, they focused on quantity, not contents. So, the lesson here isn't really about hiding your valuables in coal, but more about understanding the principles behind concealment. I mean, modern equivalents definitely exist. Pretty much any storage area that's messy, routinely accessed, and, well, socially ignored can serve the same function, if you use it intelligently. Now, these families, they weren't paranoid, they were just practical. Banks failed. Governments seized assets. Currency collapsed. Hiding gold in coal bins wasn't about secrecy just for secrecy's sake. It was about maintaining control. For historians, these kinds of practices show how ordinary folks adapted quietly, without leaving much of a record behind. And for preppers, they really prove that effective security doesn't have to mean expensive safes or complicated systems. It's all about understanding human behavior, routine, and your environment. Coal bin concealment worked because it fit right in with daily life instead of fighting against it. That's the core lesson here, and honestly, it's one worth hanging on to.